All right, welcome into another Auburn Live show. Appreciate everybody joining us on this Saturday morning. Another awesome college football weekend. Auburn prepares for LSU, Alabama and Ole Miss, Georgia and Arkansas, Cincinnati and Notre Dame. Bunch of good games, and conference schedules kind of start rolling now, and it's a lot of fun. Appreciate everybody joining us. I'm Justin Hokanson. With me, as always, on our Saturday mornings is our Modcast. Normally, Jeffrey Lee is with us. He's out of town with some family, so it's just going to be Cole Pinkston and I holding it down. Cole, what's up, dude?
That's right, man. Hold it down this week. We'll break it down for you. I think this is going to be a really good game. I'm not sure. I'm really not confident in who might be. I think they're pretty evenly matched where it sits right now. So, I think this one's going to be interesting this week.
Look at you sporting your Huntington shirt, man. Giving
Yeah,
some
man.
love.
Got to represent the where I went to school, man.
Yeah. Nice background. I mean, on three offices over there. I mean, how many of you
Yeah,
get to go to the on three offices? Look at you.
yeah. Well, only the best go to headquarters. You know what I'm saying?
Looks sharp, dude. All right, let's get into this. Appreciate everybody joining us. AuburnLive.com. If you're not a member, go to AuburnLive.com, subscribe. It's only $10, and that gets you the next year. Make sure and go to our YouTube page, Auburn Live YouTube page, and subscribe and turn that notifications bell on. So when we put up new videos, you're notified and you can watch these videos. We're going to start putting up video forms of the podcast, just like this as a show on there, so you'll be able to see our guest and hear us talk about that. Make sure you're on Twitter, Auburn Live on 3, Cole Pinkston at Cole Pinkston. I'm at Jay Hokanson. And so follow us on Twitter, Facebook. We're on Facebook. Probably got 80,000 fans on Facebook. And so make sure you're on Facebook following Auburn Live as well. But go to auburnlive.com, subscribe. We'd love to have you as a part of the community. All right, Cole, let's jump into this thing. Auburn LSU. Auburn's ranked, but that doesn't really matter. LSU, some people have LSU kind of in their own mock, in their own personal polls ahead of Auburn. Probably fairly even teams, fairly even-ish. LSU's a slight favorite, so Auburn goes to Baton Rouge as the underdog. I would say these teams are probably entering this game on different trajectories. I mean, yes, LSU just beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State's not great, but Mississippi State, we still don't know yet, right? Like Mississippi State beat NC State. And NC
Right.
State beats Clemson. So, and then Mississippi State turns around and loses to LSU. But Mississippi State not a horrendous team by any means. I mean, they're not that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
LSU with a good showing wins that game. Auburn in the meantime comes off a Georgia State game that was just a disaster for a half, and they squeak it out a week after taking Penn State to the wire. So weird 2 weeks
Yeah.
for Auburn. I mean, Penn State's probably a better team than LSU, but so these teams kind of come in, I think, momentum wise, a little bit different. I think LSU comes in with some momentum coming home. I think Auburn comes in trying to find some momentum. I think they need good things probably to happen early to get some momentum going. So, kind of start broad view. What's one or two keys that you're looking at going into this game that you think are gonna play out? What are you looking for maybe early to see how this thing is gonna go?
Uh, yeah. I think the number one thing in this game is stopping all the playmakers at receiver for LSU. So far this season, it's been a problem with Auburn secondary just getting acclimated to the new scheme. Not being able to cover for as long as the pass rush is not. They're not getting there, so they're having to cover too long. So that's got the pass rush has got to be better in order to help the secondary with a really good receiving core and a quarterback who's pretty hot right now in Max Johnson. He's not I think he's pretty even with Sean Clifford from Penn State. I think they're similar type players.
Yeah,
I think John
I can see
Clifford is
that.
actually a little bit better in the pocket than Max. Max has struggled with pressure, blitzes, things like that. So um, I think, Auburn secondary might come together and be a little bit better this week than usual. they started playing more man coverage at the end of the game
Yeah, I was
last
about to
week.
ask you why. I was about to ask you why you think that.
Well, it really seems like Mason's going to stick with what he does. That's what we've heard. That's what we see so far. But when they got in the bind, they went to man coverage a little bit more. They started rolling the dice some and played better. So, it helped that Jacoby McClain brought some energy to the defense too, and that they were stuffing the run, and that helps a lot. And speaking of which, LSU is ranked number 122 in the country in rushing offense right now. So they're not running the ball really well. They really don't try to run the ball that much.
Which is shocking, right? Like I saw that stat too. They're 80 yards a game rushing.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh. Because they're just, they're an SEC West team, and they're a team that generally has big offensive linemen and talented running backs. So there's no reason for them to ever be that low running the football. Generally, they've got the talent to do it. That was it. Have you watched? I mean, what goes into that? Have they just not run as much, or is that seriously a deficiency? Because I haven't seen them enough, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's the combination of the fact that they don't establish the run very often. They're not looking to pound on anyone. They want to go to the air first, but they also don't open up the lanes that well. They run zone offense, zone run scheme, just kind of like Auburn does. And, if you don't open up any lanes in that, you're not going to be successful. And if you don't have the backs that can find it, you won't be successful there either. They're missing John Emery from last year. He was pretty good at that kind of stuff. And Ty Davis Price is the power guy. So, he can't really go and find the lane and then make a cut. He's more of a power guy. Get him in a hole and he's hard to tackle, when he meets the linebacker or something. But that's what I've seen so far. They just don't try to do it that much. They're probably 70% pass, 30% run in their scheme, in their game plan. So, but and that's probably not going to change. It might even go more towards the pass this week because Auburn's run defense has been pretty good this year. So, yeah, I think they try to stay in the air in the whole game.
How normally I'm not big on predictions, or I don't like to give predictions, or I'm certainly cynical. I'm a little bit skeptical, like generally.
Yeah.
I think Auburn wins on Saturday. I think they win the game. I'm just gonna say it. I don't know why. I mean, I've got some reasons why, and they might not. Look, I think it's a toss-up game. I think both teams have got to do certain things to win. I think Auburn's capable of doing those things. I think LSU is capable of doing those things. So I think it's somewhat of a toss-up. Obviously, who starts at quarterback? That's a factor and all that. It just feels like I just feel like Auburn could come to play. Part of it is the Georgia State game. Part of me wonders if they were watching LSU film for 2 weeks. Because it just was so. I mean, it just was so bad that the lack of preparation for a couple of those plays, it was ridiculous. So part of me wonders if they watched a little bit more film on LSU even maybe than they should have last week, or didn't pay enough attention to Georgia State. Part of me thinks that Auburn's going to come out and really, really lean on the run, probably more so than they have all year. They know that's their strength, but even against Penn State, they wanted to be balanced, and so they threw the ball a decent bit too. I mean, before that last drive, Bo still had about 30 passes.
Right.
It's not like Bo didn't really throw the ball 37 times. I mean, he had that last drive, so he probably threw the ball about 29, 30 times. So I think Auburn's going to lean more on their strength. I think that could help limit the LSU pass rush, which is their strength. And then take shots when you can. I think that'll protect whoever plays quarterback for Auburn. And I think Auburn's defense. Look, I know people are kind of gnashing their teeth about Derek Mason and is he going to come out and run more zone? I get it, but I'm also on the side of let's see Mason's defense actually executed pretty well for once. I mean, people are kind of on him about the Penn State game plan, and that's fine. I kind of agree, but it also wasn't executed very well. I mean, if you go back in that game, yes, Clifford had too much time. But even with the too much time, what happens if they don't completely let the tight end just run free 3 or 4 times? Think about those massive chunk plays that gets Penn State down in scoring position. If you execute his defense, which is making a team work for it, you got to make them work for it. You can't play that style and then give up a busted coverage. That's like worst case scenario. Um, so let's see what happens if Mason says, all right, we're going to stick to that scheme, right? Maybe we're not going to bring 3, we're going to bring 4, and we'll blitz. Maybe he blitzes a hair more, but in general, it's similar. But what if they just execute? Nobody blows a coverage. Nobody's letting guys run wide open. If that doesn't happen and you make LSU work, make them work, that combined with if Auburn can run the football, I think would be a good recipe for Auburn, and so I just get in the game and then see what happens. Maybe you can get some easier opportunities in the air if you can throw the football. So I think Auburn's going to be right there in this game. Now, all that goes out the window if if they go out there and bust another coverage and are giving up chunks. I mean, right? Like,
Yeah,
I'm not banking.
that's unacceptable. That
Yeah,
can't happen.
but I just think I don't know. It's just a gut feeling. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I think Auburn's going to be right there in the fourth quarter of this game to win it. They might even be leading in the fourth quarter and just need to make some plays to hold on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's absolutely possible. It's in the equation. I would never rule out Auburn in this game with the team they have currently. I think there's plenty of options. There's plenty of weapons. Guys on defense that have been there and made the plays and know what they're doing. And it's the new scheme is different to them. Yeah, but at this point in the season, you got to come together and figure it out.
Right.
It's time. But it all stems to me on the pass rush. You can play zone coverage. You can't play zone coverage if you can't get a pass rush.
Sure.
And
yeah.
They tried against Penn State, which in my opinion is not a great time to be experimenting. But hey, that's past now. So they tried to rush 3 and just play zone coverage. They thought the pass rush was good enough. They saw the pass rush, play well against Alabama State and against Akron in the 2 first games. And they said, all right, well, we're pretty comfortable with this. Let's roll the dice and rush 3 and see what happens. Well, it didn't work. So now you go back to the drawing board. You got to dial up some blitzes. And I wrote about this too again when before the Penn State game and now before this game. Both of those offensive lines struggled prior to that game, to the Penn State game, prior to this game for LSU against blitzes. So why not? If you see that on film, if you see that they're struggling with that, why not throw some exotic blitz looks? Have a corner, bring some pressure from weird places. Bring some linebackers. Owen Papo and Jacoby McClain are really good at it. So I think that's got to be in the game plan. I think that's important for Auburn to win. And if they don't do that and stay in zone coverage too much, Max Johnson and those receivers will tear that up. That's what they want.
Yeah, I like Max Johnson. I think Brian Harsin used the exact right word, which is moxie. I like that description of Max Johnson. He throws a good ball. If you remember last year, Auburn beat LSU down, but if I remember right, Max Johnson came into that game late, and I think he led them on their only touchdown drive very, very late in the game.
Yeah, he
of course,
did.
Auburn's playing backups and stuff, but I like Max Johnson. I like what I see. I think the kid is I think you're right. You got to put pressure on him. If you don't, I think he could be really good. You could make – tell me if you've heard this. Anybody who's been an Auburn fan for 30 years, the history Auburn has of making quarterbacks look fantastic is really remarkable. I mean, it's not like Auburn hasn't obviously shut some quarterbacks down, but boy, there's a long history of going into games and quarterbacks that are pretty average having phenomenal games against Auburn, and you're like, what in the world? And so Max Johnson's certainly capable of that if they don't get a little pressure on him. He could easily do what Clifford did. I mean, He's a good passer of the football. I'm curious if their rushing attack finds any legs Saturday night. It's nobody's really talking about it. 80 yards a game, and that's Auburn's strength. If you weren't watching the first half of the Georgia State game, that is. Um, but give Auburn credit, as horrendous as the first half of Georgia State was, 215 yards rushing. I think they gave up like probably 30 yards rushing in the second half. I mean, so they did have literally a 180 turnaround. As bad as they were that good in the second half. So that's still Auburn's strength against the run, especially with Zacoby McClain and Owen Papo back. That's still their strength. So I think that's big too. I think sometimes in these games we look at the variable, the X factor. We're like, okay, but maybe sometimes in this game it's, hey, Auburn rush defense, you're pretty good. You better go be pretty good. You need to be you. You need to make sure that that's under control so that we can pressure Max Johnson or things like that. So I wonder if is there anything that LSU's done running the football or anything that makes you think they could get going on the ground against Auburn?
Yeah, well, I mean, they have a veteran offensive line. Most of those guys have been there for a while. I'm pretty sure that Austin Deculus guy's been there for 18 years now. But I think he's like a grad transfer right now, if that's a thing. I think he's like in his second grad year, maybe.
Everything's a thing now. I'm just going to assume that everything is a thing. I mean, anything is possible.
Yeah, it's all on the table. So, yeah, he's just one of a bunch of guys who've started. Ed Ingram is another guy. I can't think of the other one's name right now, but there's another guy that's been there for a while and started for a long time, 2 or 3 years. So yeah, I mean, it's not like this is it's not really an offensive line issue. I don't think for LSU's rushing game. I think it's like I was saying earlier, just lack of trying, lack of, maybe. I'm not sure if their scheme is a whole lot different from last year. I know they're running a lot of zone run stuff, and that's from when I watched them against Mississippi State. Mississippi State's D-line just closed it up on them, and they just couldn't get anything going, which is what happened to Auburn in the first half too. Tank Bigsby couldn't get rolling, but Jarquez Hunter found some spot. To me, Jarquez Hunter's really good in the zone run game. He's got good vision. He's good at finding it. So yeah, you have to have a back that can find it, and to me, Ty Davis Price is a good back. He gets the majority of the carries, but he's just not the guy that's gonna make something out of nothing when nothing's there. So yeah, I don't know. With all the playmakers they have at receiver, though, that's their calling card. They're gonna go to that as much as possible. I mean that Keishon Butte guys is fantastic.
Yeah.
He
looks like a third round pick kind of guy. Butte looks like maybe I'm way off. He looks like maybe a second round or maybe early third round type of pick to me. Like he's not. I don't think he's first round, but he's not past the third round. He's a good player.
There's a difference in LSU's receivers than maybe Penn State. So Jahan Dotson, and this could be one of the reasons that Derek Mason schemed it the way he did. Jahan Dotson is a deep threat. He's a guy that can take the top off of a defense. He does it a lot. He's done it so many times in his career. Yeah. And, they'll throw the short stuff to him, but they're wanting to go deep to him. With LSU's receivers, a lot of what they do is quick game stuff, slants, hitches, just short routes that their receivers make big plays off of. Especially Butte. Every time he gets the ball in his hands, he's got a chance to break a tackle, to make somebody miss, and take it. So, they also have 2 freshman guys. You think they had Trey Palmer coming back, Dre Jenkins, guys that were good for him last year, and then they add 2 freshmen, that Beck guy, and then the other one is Deion Smith, and they've both caught almost 10 passes apiece too. So, I mean, they just reloaded at that spot. They're always going to have good skill players at LSU. You can always count on that.
Yeah, and then on the other side, of course, Derek Stingley is not playing. That's big for Auburn. Obviously, he's one of the best cornerbacks in the country. If not for him, I mean, maybe Auburn 2 years ago in Baton Rouge, Auburn may score a touchdown right before halftime. He makes that interception on the lob to Seth Williams down the sideline right before half. It was kind of ill advised, and Seth kind
Yeah.
of didn't get a good jump, and Stingley makes a play. If
Yep.
Seth catches that ball and Auburn gets a touchdown somehow before half, maybe that game's different. But Stingley's not in there, so that's big. They're still talented. Eli Ricks is really good,
Yes.
but it just kind of shifts down. So now Eli Ricks is there. Now who's your number? Your number three is now your number two, and then here's where and now your number four is your number three. So where it factors in is, to me, somebody like Kobe Hudson. He already has made a living in the slot, and now LSU's down a corner, so maybe that puts somebody else in the mix there that Auburn could hit a play on, whether it's Kobe Hudson or whoever else. Look, what should we make of the Auburn wideouts in this game? Obviously, we've talked ad nauseum about the I have this week on the podcast about the change in coaching there from Cornelius Williams to Eric Kiesau. We know the receivers have dropped too many passes. They've dropped 9 passes in 4 games. So you can't go into a game knowing you're going to drop at least 2. That
Yeah.
can't happen as an average. We saw Elijah Canyon catch a ball late in the Georgia State game. Shed had that catch. We're waiting on Xavion Capers to do something. He's too talented to not do something at some point. What do you make of the receivers in this game? Do they have an opportunity to shine? Is this a pretty good secondary even without Stingley? And then we talked about running the football. So if Auburn's going to run the football, if that's kind of their game plan, or what we think maybe they will is be run heavy, does that limit things for the wideouts? Like, what do you expect from the wideouts? Are there opportunities for big plays?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, anytime you can run the football, you're going to have opportunities in the passing game, especially the play action game, which really, to me, has disappeared. I don't know what happened to the play action game that we saw in the first couple of games, and didn't see it much against Penn State. It wasn't really in the scheme, and I'm talking about more of instead of just the jab to the running back and the shotgun, I'm talking more of the long drawn out, play action passes. Maybe they're just not comfortable with that against better pass rushes.
Yeah, I was about to say, is that a protection thing? Is that that
It probably
you better
is.
really trust your line? Yeah.
I think it is. And even when they did them in the first couple games, they had Luke Deal stay in and protect. So, you don't want to have 2 routes running on these plays. You want to have multiple options for your quarterbacks, especially with them, with Bo Nix struggling, with TJ Finley coming in and sort of coming in cold in a way. LSU's secondary is always going to be talented. They're always going to have 4- and 5-star guys out there. I think they do, even without Stingley. I know the next guy after Ricks is probably former Auburn commit Cordell Flott. I think he had a pick against Mississippi State, but yeah, I mean, they're pretty young in the secondary, so maybe this is where Auburn's receivers find some traction and start to make some plays. If they can get it in Kobe Hudson's hands, he's pretty good after the catch. Not really. Nobody's really been. It seems like everybody at Auburn right now is a possession receiver, and they need somebody to be able to make a play.
Well, that would be Demetrius Robertson potentially, but something's going on with him. I mean, Bo should have hit him probably twice against Penn State. He's the one guy that's got speed to make a big play. You're right. I would say everybody else's possession, and I would agree. The one guy that pushes the limit of that I've been saying for a couple days now is Javaris Johnson. He's healthy now. He's back and he's healthy. He has to be in the game plan more. He is another guy that I think is on the line of possession, but can be a game breaker. Just because The only reason I think he's possession is kind of how they use him. But he has game breaking ability, and he's a guy now that he's 100%. He needs to get the ball. He's tough to guard. He's going to be in the middle of the field most of the time. He's never going to be outside in Auburn's offense. He's going to be in the middle of the field, matchups. And you're talking about explosive plays. You want plays to get you 10-plus yards. You've got to find him. You've got to find him across the middle of the field, drag routes or little squirrel routes. I mean, I'm just big on him the last few days going to this game. Now that he's 100%, he's got to start getting the ball. I mean, he has to.
Well, you notice in the second half of the game last week when things were pretty dire, they start throwing deep balls to him. He had two deep balls that could have been, well, the first one could have been a touchdown if it was on the money because he was by himself coming down the middle of the field. He was overthrown. Second one was in the end zone by Finley, and it was close. I mean, it was close. Yeah. It was almost – I think the problem with that throw was that it drifted the wrong way. If it had drifted into his left shoulder, I think he makes that catch. So, it's the little things like that. But Javaris Johnson is the guy they want to go to him on those kind of things. I mean, when Demetrius Robertson was out, that's the guy. That's your deep ball guy. So, and man, is Auburn going to complete a deep ball this year? They have not. I don't think they have at all. I can't remember a time that they've completed a deep ball this year. Has it happened?
I mean, I could find out pretty quick. I mean, it's
maybe
off the top of my head.
Game.
I mean,
the first game, Javaris Johnson's wide open on the play action.
Yeah, wide open on some action, like a Gus Malzahn play. But no, your point is the fact that we have to think about it that hard through 4 games. No, they're not connecting on that. I mean, the deep ball accuracy is horrendous, just like it has been. Because let's be real, Bo isn't an accurate thrower anyway, and he's dang sure not an accurate thrower deep down the sideline for sure. Maybe down the middle he's a tad better, but deep down the sideline, Bo Nix does not have that accuracy. It's you probably got even if Demetrius, I mean, you saw, Demetrius Robinson beats this guy twice and it was 0 for 2. So Finley had an opportunity too, missed somebody deep, and then he missed Kobe Hudson down there on that 3rd down. Before the 4th down, he should have been a touchdown on 3rd down. So I don't think from an accuracy standpoint, I'm not sure Finley is a lot better than Nix. Maybe we'll find out. But you're right, the deep ball, you got to connect at some point. Maybe you get Shanker on a seam route or something, like Finley did, which is a great catch by John Samuels. Like, phenomenal catch. The way he got his hands under the football and then tucked it and it never touched the ground, that was a thing of beauty. Let me just tell you, really one of the better catches.
I gave him a new nickname in the real-time analysis last week, Soft Hand Shanker.
Soft Hand, it's a good nickname. It's a good nickname. That catch is great call by the refs.
Man,
perfect catch.
Even before this year, the dude has made some big catches. You don't remember them because they weren't significant, but, I mean, he's got good hands.
He does have good hands. Well, and then think about Tyler Fromm down the middle of Penn State that had an opportunity if the ball's better thrown, has an opportunity there. So maybe they can sneak somebody down the middle and go back to that seam route with a tight end or something like that, or Javaris. Maybe they can go back to that over the middle and hit something against LSU.
Well, that's the good news, right? The good news is there have been plays that have been schemed up that are there. I mean, if you just execute the play, the fixable things, right? They've had Tyler Fromm open down the seam. They've had Javaris Johnson run down the seam. Demetrius Robertson was open plenty of times in the Penn State game and was missed.
Yeah,
the scheme is there. So as far as play calling goes, it's like it's flipped, right? The play calling's a little bit better, but the execution's worse. And to say that's not expected would be you want it to be better by this game, but with the full scheme change, with the full program change, it's unfortunate, but it's taken longer than you want it to, at this point. Hopefully by this week they start to gel a little bit and figure that out, but that's going to be the thing to watch there,
That's my only worry. That's the only reason I wouldn't pick Auburn is because there's just been too much, the receiver change. That doesn't mean a lot to me. Like if all things being equal, excuse me, I don't think that's going to be a big deal. And that's not, it's not necessarily a slight on Cornelius. It's more just the fact that Keeshaw knows that offense and knows what Brian Harsin wants and already was helping with the receivers. And so I don't see that being an issue at all. I think the issue is who's playing quarterback? How do you adjust play calling for that quarterback? And does that impact finding your identity? That's what we don't know. Like if Finley comes in and starts and plays the whole game, let's say, now you're going to have to find your identity in the middle of while playing an SEC football game on the road. That's hard to do.
Yes, it is.
And so that's one of the biggest reasons that I would go against Auburn is just because if Finley's the guy, and guess what? If Finley starts and Nix then ends up coming in, well, then that's not good either. Somebody asked on Twitter, because Brian Harsin has a history of rotating quarterbacks. He's done it before. Somebody asked if he would do that. And I said, well, he's done it before, but this wouldn't make a lot of sense to me. These two guys are too similar. I don't see the benefits of it's not like you've got Finley and like Emory Jones that you could like run zone read. They're too similar in what they do. A rotating guys wouldn't. Let's say Finley's playing and you bring in Nix. If Finley's playing okay and why would you do that? I mean, there's nothing to gain, I don't think, from that. And so I don't know that these two guys are the guys that you're going to see a quarterback rotation from. I don't know who that benefits at all. I don't think you're gaining anything. It's not like a changeup. One of them's not a changeup over the other one. I mean, do you not agree?
Yeah. I think the issues they're having are both the same. The mechanics of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, well, that didn't help. That didn't help at all. I studied Nix more this week. I study him every week, but I studied him more. I really want to get down to the bottom of it. And, there are some protection issues. That can't be ignored. I actually think that Nix is trying to take the teaching. I do. I don't think he's just hard-headed. I think he's actually he's doing things differently than I've seen him do it before. A lot of times he doesn't step into his throws because he's not comfortable in the pocket, but he's staying in the pocket. He's not freaking out like he used to. It just looks like he's trying to take the coaching and he's trying to do things differently, but it's almost like he started over from square one and he's trying to get the mechanics down again. And that's what it looks like to me. As frustrating as that is, it's got to be frustrating for him too, but that's the way it looks to me right now.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that assessment. I think, you look at that Akron game and there's things he did that we all came out of that game saying, all right, it's Akron, we get it. But he did some good things. He looked a little bit calmer. We thought that there was a noticeable difference. But then that all kind of went, but even Penn State, I thought was maybe certainly his best road game of his career.
Sure.
It wasn't awesome, but I thought he made some good throws. If his receivers would have caught a few balls, he probably lost 50 yards in field position from receivers dropping passes. So I think that you only have to go back 2 games. The Georgia State game though it was just so bad across the board on offense. So I agree with you. I think he's trying to take the coaching, but by doing that, it's like starting all over again. But there's something synapses wise with Bo Nix that is it just does not allow him to settle down and be a pocket quarterback. He just wants to wing it too often, and he wants to scramble, and he just I think that's like in his DNA. And it looks like he's even at times sometimes he's fighting it, and he'll have moments where he looks good, and then he'll have moments where he tries to revert back. And so unfortunately you would have liked, because he did that in high school, and so what you needed somebody like Mike Bobo his freshman year. You didn't need somebody. We all thought coming in he was a perfect fit for Gus Malzahn, and I think maybe on the surface he was. But then we remembered that Gus Malzahn doesn't actually develop quarterbacks at all. They just kind of are what they are. If they're good, then they're going to be good, and if they're bad, they're going to be bad. I wouldn't say Jarrett Stidham's not in the NFL because of Gus Malzahn. Jarrett Stidham was one of the top-rated quarterbacks in the country, and nobody else. Sean White, Jeremy Johnson, I can go down the list. Everybody else just kind of was what they were. Bo Nix needed Mike Bobo his freshman year. He needed 2 years to break habits, and instead he got 2 years of affirming habits. And okay, you work on your feet a little bit, but it just clearly wasn't really harped on it because there was just no changes. So you got 2 years of just kind of I don't think anybody really pounding him about stay in the pocket, be a pocket guy, Um, and so I don't know. I think that's another fascinating element that we're not talking about a lot is what will Bo Nix look like if he comes off the sideline? No idea. We're probably going to find out whether it's LSU or whatever. We're probably going to find out that answer. I think. I mean, unless Finley comes up, just takes off. If Finley comes in, wins the game, then he's the guy. But but it wouldn't shock me if Nix gets in this game at some point. But what's Bo Nix look like off the bench? We don't know. You don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, look. I mean, Finley's got the arm talent to really take over a game if the play calls are good. Meaning, if the scheme opens up some plays for him, he could connect on some deep balls better than Bo might be able to. He could, he can beam it over the middle when somebody's open. Yeah. He's just got better arm talent to me, and he's better in the pocket. He orchestrates things better, but he does. The problem with him is he puts too much heat on the ball sometimes. And well, look, I mean, he's got a strong arm.
Great. Oh, it's a natural, man. I was telling people on the board watching him when we go out and watch fall camp, those little open sessions, man, it's effortless. He flicks the ball and it's a pretty pass, man. It really is.
Yeah, it always is. But you have to have touch on the ball because if you have to know when to put heat on it, you have to know when to take some off. You got to know when to lob it. I think last week there was a touchdown that he missed to Capers too. Capers was in the middle of the field on a post. He had man coverage. He got off of it in the middle of the field, and it was just too far out in front of him because he put too much heat on it. You want to put air under that ball so he can run under it into the end zone. But there's going to be issues with either one of them. You just have to decide, if the way you're going to call the game, who fits that better. Because honestly, if you were to take Bo and run him more, if you were to run some more options where he's able to read it and maybe some RPO stuff, mix that in, he's going to excel better at that, obviously, than T. But he's going to excel better overall with that kind of offense because you have two different kind of guys, right? You have game manager types and then you have playmaker types. And Bo is in the playmaker category. He can make plays on the run. He's good when he's on the move, throwing the football sometimes, that kind of stuff. And I think that they've got to be they have to decide what kind of scheme they want to run when they have which specific guy they have in the game at that time. So I think that's a big deal too. How do they do that?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Bo should be running. He should be running more than he is. He should be running more RPOs. He should be running more zone reads. People should have to respect his ability to run more. That just has never happened. Even with Gus, when you thought it could have, it didn't really. They never really gave him an opportunity to make teams worry about that. And so we'll see what happens. All right, what's your feeling? What's your prediction when it all comes down to it? What do you think happens on Saturday night?
I think, I'm just not overly confident about this one. I'll just be completely honest. Auburn hadn't won in Death Valley since 1999, whatever that's out there. But just the week Auburn's had, just the things that have been going on, having to make a change in the coaching staff. I don't know. I think there's so many opportunities for Auburn to win the game. I think they have a more complete team than LSU at this point, but LSU and Death Valley real late at night, with all the weapons they have on offense and the struggles Auburn's had on defense. I think it's a close one, but I think LSU might win this one maybe 38-32. I'll go high scoring.
Woo! I'll be surprised if LSU puts up 38 points. That will surprise me.
Yeah,
I mean that's bad defense. I mean that's problems.
Well, I'm never right.
Team that can't run.
I'm always wrong in predictions anyway. If it makes anybody feel better, so
don't take. Cole's not giving out gambling advice.
No, don't.
That's for dang sure. That would surprise me. I mean, for a team that for a team that hasn't shown the ability to be a juggernaut running the football. If they push 40, then you got a real problem. I mean, LSU hasn't run the ball extremely well. Auburn's front four, throw in Zacoby and Owen. There's no reason Auburn shouldn't be able to control their running game. If that becomes a problem, then no, Auburn will not win this game. If that becomes a problem, if LSU actually runs the ball successfully, then it could be a bad night. I'm assuming Auburn is going to kind of corral that to some degree, and we're going to be focused on how they do to defend the pass. I think you're. I mean, but look, if Auburn scored 32, that would kind of surprise me too. I feel like if Auburn's going to win this game, it's going to be 27-24. Somebody asked on the corner at AuburnLive.com. They asked if LSU scores 24, can Auburn win? I said, yeah, actually. I mean, I don't think it's like Penn State. Penn State was a better defense, and I thought if it got up to, kind of where it was, basically, Auburn's going to be 20, 23, 24. If it gets up to 28, I'm not sure. I think Auburn could win this game. I think LSU could score 24 and Auburn could score 28, something like that. I think if Auburn's going to win, it's going to be 27 to 20, 27 to 24, something like that. Probably throw a few field goals in there because the red zone's not been great for Auburn. Maybe they need to hit a few plays from 35 out. I don't know. They got to fix that. Red zone's been terrible. We'll see. Can they force turnovers? That's the other thing about playing the style of defense is, where's your aggression? Where's your ability to intercept the pass and things like that? If Marquise Burks is forcing a fumble, where are your turnovers? I don't know, man. I just have a sneaky feeling that Auburn figured things out on defense in the second half against Georgia State. So it's not like they're coming off of a crappy first half, but they dominated the second half. They did what they were supposed to do. Offense was still an issue in the second half, but Finley did his job, and they scored touchdowns. So I think Auburn. And the other thing is, like you said, they haven't won in Baton Rouge in a long time, and they know that. It's been mentioned to the players. It's been mentioned to the coaches. They're cranking it up in the stadium decibel level. We saw some video where they're playing LSU band in there at 90 decibels, and they've already played in the whiteout. So by no means are they going in there and going to be like, whoa. I mean, it won't be the same environment. Penn State Stadium is bigger, and and the other thing is what does the COVID? You got to remember, LSU, you have to be vaccinated or you have to have a negative test.
Right.
And their last home game a couple weeks ago, their last home game was probably 85,000 fans. Now this is SEC. It's Auburn. It's Saturday night. But I don't. It's not going to be as many people as Penn State. So I don't think the crowd. I don't think the crowd is some reason that I would pick LSU, especially if TJ Finley starts. He's played in there. He's not going to be he's played in the stadium. He's played in front of those fans. It doesn't matter if he's wearing an Auburn jersey now or an LSU jersey. I don't think that matters to him. In fact, I think he'd be more motivated to go out there and show out. If anything, the only thing that worries me if Finley's the quarterback are his nerves because of the moment of I'm against my former team. It's my first start. Like there's a lot of things that could be going into your emotions early on, but then I think he'll settle down. And I really I hope TJ Finley starts. I'm just going to say it. I think he's earned the right. We know what we're getting with Bo Nix. So I want to see TJ Finley start. I want to see what he's capable of. You brought him here. Let's see what you got. Because I do like what I saw from TJ in that Georgia State game. He made a couple of plays that were pressure filled and in the moment, and he made a good play. And I like what he said after the game. I like the words he said. I think he's got his head on straight. He really impressed me. Just in a short period of time. I think the kid is a leader. I do. I think the kid's a leader. And I think right now Bo's probably wondering a little bit, kind of lost a little bit on what's going on. And so I'd go with Finley and see what happens. And I don't know. It makes no sense to pick Auburn to win this game. Finley's going to start. Auburn's going to go in there and win. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if they don't win, I just think they're going to be right there. I just have a sneaky feeling that Auburn could pull this thing out. I like a field goal.
I could get on board with that. I'll add this too. Obviously, this game is one of the most important games of the year, every year for Auburn and LSU. But for Auburn, I think this one has gotten over the past couple of weeks. This one has just gotten huge. I mean, it's always a must win. I'm not saying that, but I think it's even more so with the emergence of Ole Miss and Arkansas, who are also on the schedule, and you also have Georgia and Bama. A win here is, I mean, it is so huge.
It's basically
Forward.
a must win. I mean, people are talking about, and really it is for LSU too. LSU is they're in the same boat Auburn is. They still got Arkansas and Ole Miss and Alabama and A&M. They're in the same division. They have the same type of schedule that Auburn does, and so it's a massive game for both teams if they want to have remotely a successful season. I hate must win, but as we sit right now, it's hard to imagine Auburn losing this game and then going to Fayetteville and winning. They're not, Georgia and Alabama, look, those are going to be long shots. They're going to be 2 touchdown plus underdogs.
Yeah.
A&M, Auburn can compete with A&M, but it's on the road. The one game they get at home that they could win is Ole Miss, but Ole Miss scores so many points that I'd rather Arkansas be at home. Yeah. So it's just, I hate must wins because week to week you never know. But if they want to have a chance to go 8-4, they can't lose this game. If they lose this game, now they're staring 7-5 absolutely in the face, and potentially 6-6. They'd have to beat somebody probably that they're an underdog against to go 7-5. So it's, people wanted that 8-4 mark, and maybe that was unrealistic. Maybe the way it's going to shake out, we're going to look back and go, well, maybe the 8-4 was a little much. I mean, for whatever reason. But people kind of thought that 8-4 number, that's what they had in their head, is what this team could do. Well, if they don't win Saturday, 8-4 is not happening.
Yep, I agree with that. The pressure is definitely on. I mean, that's why people love Auburn, right? Every game's interesting.
Jeez, man. I joked we had Barrett Sallee on the other day, and I brought him on. I'm like, well, hey, man, good to have you on. Not much going on in Auburn. Pretty quiet. No drama.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. It's pretty chill, as Auburn does. Oh, it's never dull, man. All right, real quick before we get out of here, Bama, Ole Miss. I think Bama wins. So Ole Miss has gotten all the hype. Part of me wonders if Bama's defense doesn't come in there and play a damn good football game, and they beat Ole Miss by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, this is when they play their best games. After when you think that there's going to be a chance for the other team to take them, that's when they have their best games usually. So give me Bama by 2 touchdowns. I just don't see Ole Miss beating them. I don't see their defense stopping them. I think they'll score on them. I don't think they'll stop them.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun, entertaining game. It won't be like last year was 63-48.
It can't be like that.
It won't be like that. We're still to this day, it's one of the most remarkable stats that Alabama gained every possible yard except for about 40 in that game. I mean, Ole Miss literally. I mean, they stopped Alabama from getting 40 yards. Every other possible yard Alabama could have gotten in that game, they got was 700 something.
Well, okay, to go with that then. So, Ole Miss's defense was that bad last year, at least in that game. Which I mean, they weren't great all season, but they are slightly better this year. I'm not going to say they're leaps and bounds better, but they are better. And then I'm not sure Alabama's offense is what it was last year either quite yet.
Not. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's an opportunity. There's definitely an opportunity for Ole Miss to win that game.
Yeah, I'm thinking Alabama 38, Ole Miss 27. Something like that. 38-24. Yeah. I think Alabama's defense will rise to the occasion here. It's rarely that Nick Saban actually gets to motivate. Well, I say rarely. They're in the playoff every year. I should say regular season that he gets a chance to really motivate his team, like legitimately. He's not making it up like rat poison. He's like, no, for real. Everybody's picking Ole Miss, guys. Everybody thinks that they're the darling.
Yeah.
And so it's rarely in the regular season lately do you get to go into an Alabama game thinking, oh, maybe. And so I
Yeah.
think Alabama's Arkansas, Georgia. I think Georgia's in pretty good shape there. I mean, at some point, KJ Jefferson and their ability to pass is going to get exposed. Hit a big play against A&M, but they're not. Traylon Burks is a great player, but I mean, they're not. That's not a. If you shut down their run, I mean, against a good defense, I don't think against somebody like Georgia that can hold strong against the run of Arkansas.
Yeah.
I think they're going to make KJ Jefferson look real average in that game. That's probably another game that I think both those games are hyped, and I think both of them could end up being 10+ margins.
If I'm picking one of those two games to be the more entertaining game, I say that I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in the Alabama Ole Miss game, but I think the closer game is going to be Georgia and Arkansas because I'm a big believer in momentum, and they've got serious momentum right now. They've got a good defense. Their defense flies around. Honestly, their defense is just from the look of things. And I don't know. I mean, maybe Texas is really, really bad on offense. Maybe Texas A&M is really, really bad on offense, which I don't think they are because they got plenty of guys that can play. Their quarterback is new, but other than that, I like the way Arkansas is playing right now. I think they're going to have a chance to take down the Giant in that one. I really do.
Yeah, that's possible. You're right. I mean, I think the Arkansas defense is probably the X factor. They got to play the way they've been playing. They got to keep that game in check to some degree to allow Arkansas. Because Arkansas's not. I just don't see Arkansas scoring a lot of points. I mean, I think the most points Arkansas scores is, I don't know, less turnovers. But that game's going to have to be no more than 28 for Georgia. Arkansas's good defense is going to have to play fantastic to win that game. Kentucky, Florida, interesting game. Kentucky's hyped up. Will Levis, kind of falling off a little bit. But man, Kentucky's pumped about that game. Quick pick.
Kentucky quietly building something. I mean, they've been building something for a while. They quietly have a really good team this year. Florida's front's really good. They look good against Bama. To me, they could be a hot and cold team. It's Florida in a close one, but I think Kentucky's is pretty good right there with Arkansas with the momentum. Yeah,
I would say Florida in a close one as well. And then of course Cincinnati, Notre Dame, another big national game that we'll be keeping our eyes on. Cincinnati, if they could pull that game out against Notre Dame, they're absolutely in the hunt for a playoff spot. I mean, with the way everybody Clemson down a little bit, what if Alabama gets upset? The door could be creaking open for somebody like Cincinnati if they can win that game to maybe go into the 6th spot or maybe the 5 spot and just kind of hover. And so we'll see how it goes. All right, let's end on that. Auburn LSU, 8 p.m. ESPN, Saturday night, Death Valley, on and on and on. We get it. Auburn with a chance to win 2 in a row in this series for the first time since 99 and 2000. They won that game in Baton Rouge in 99. They turned around and they won again in 2000. They have not won 2 in a row yet. Part of that's because they haven't won in Baton Rouge. So every time they've won at home, they've lost the next year.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they can turn it around. Last year was the worst beatdown Auburn's ever laid on LSU. So we'll see if they can follow that up and break this streak. AuburnLive.com, full coverage of the game on Sunday morning. You'll have it. I would imagine people aren't going to be hanging out at 11:30 or 12 Saturday night wanting to read stories.
I think it depends on how it goes.
Yeah, it's true. True. If Auburn wins, maybe so. But we'll have full coverage, AuburnLive.com, quotes. As always, Cole will bring you on Sunday 5 answers to his questions going into the game. He had some big questions. We'll see if Auburn can answer them or how they'll answer them. They're going to answer them one way or another. And so we'll see what happens there. Appreciate everybody for joining us. For Cole, I'm Justin. Everybody have a good Saturday. Get ready for the big game tonight. AuburnLive.com. We'll see you.